I call the Honourable Member Denise Roach.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker.
Tēnā koe.
I think I'd like to just start my speech in support of this bill by paying tribute to the fact that today is Suffrage Day, and I just want to acknowledge the tupuna kuia, the women who went before us, by whose work all the women in this House are entitled to be here and to be able to participate fully in our democracy. People like Kate Shepherd. So it's fitting, from my point of view, that this bill should be in the House today, because it's about improving our democracy. It's a welcome attempt at creating accountability and transparency for organisations that are publicly owned, our ports. It's quite a straightforward and sensible bill. And if you look at the explanation at the front of the bill, it says that it just applies the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act to ports that are owned by councils, that there is a requirement to act as a good employer, and that there is a requirement for ports to exhibit a sense of social and environmental responsibility by having regard to the interests of the community in which they operate. It makes sense. If we expect accountability for how public money is spent, then these ports, which are profit-making businesses of our councils, then we should expect some accountability for how that money is earned. And we're not talking about anything earth-shattering or anything different from normal practice. The bill simply says that the provisions of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act applies. They can still have commercially sensitive discussions, table commercially sensitive documents, and do it in committee, as long as they have a good reason to do that. It's a darn shame that we need to do this at all, but we may as well acknowledge that this is the result of ports acting disagreeably, and the most disagreeable of all was the Ports of Auckland dispute that happened earlier this year. There were 9 strikes, there were 2 lockouts with the dispute with the Maritime Workers Union. The company breached good faith bargaining provisions of the Employment Relations Act. It threatened to contract out the jobs. It's advertised those jobs elsewhere. It released private details. Tamir. Darian Fenton has already listed a lot of them. Clearly, these were not the actions of a good or even a reasonable employer. And during this time, the council, who owns the company, who owns the port, through their holding company, Auckland Council Investments Limited, were unable to intervene, and they were dependent on information that was filtered through the company, information, frankly, that was being withheld. Just last week in Auckland Council, the councillors, who, by the way, were democratically elected by the people of Auckland, were still struggling to get answers from the CCO about how much the Ports of Auckland dispute had cost. And we can make some good guesses about that, but it's never been confirmed. And my former colleague, Councillor Cathy Casey, got her hands on one of the emails that came from the CEO of ACIL, which said that the last thing they wanted is political interference. They say that if they sense that ACIL is not on top of what's happening, then those politicians, it is, might interfere and the decision might not go the way they want. It's outrageous that a council-controlled organisation chief can so clearly dismiss democratically elected people who are charged with the governance of Auckland, and that includes the governance of infrastructure like our ports. I'm a ratepayer, and I still don't know what that dispute in Auckland cost me. It's not just about Auckland. Littleton would be advantaged by this as well. In Littleton, they have no idea what is happening with the expansion plans there. They have been overruled by Sarah in terms of being rushed through an expansion of, I think it's about 10 hectares of reclamation using demolition material. They don't know where their ferries will be. They don't know what the transport links will be. They don't know if the container trucks will be off their roads or going through their towns. They don't know what public space amenity there will be for them. And this is a major concern to the communities in Littleton. My colleagues tell me that this bill will help people who live near ports everywhere.
I call the point of order, the Right Honourable Winston
Mr. Speaker, I seek leave to table a document containing a list of council-controlled organisations in Tauranga which will be subject to this bill, including Tauranga City Investments Limited, Tauranga City Aquatics Limited, Tauranga City Venues, Western Bay of Plenty Tourism Visitor Trust, Tauranga Art Gallery Trust, TAGT Deliverable Specific, and two more Bay of Plenty Local Authority Shared Services, Bay Broadband Limited, in case people don't know the ambit of this legislation.
Thank you. Is there any objection to that course of action being taken? There is. I call the Honourable Member Jackie Dean. Point of order, the Honourable Member Andrew Williams.
Mr. Speaker, I seek leave to table the Ports of Auckland document, a Labour strategy memo which is being leaked to us, which is a document that illustrates which would be obtainable through the Local Government Official Information Meetings Act if changes proposed by this bill were to be enacted.
Is there any objection to that course of action being taken? There is. I call the Honourable Member. Point of order.
Mr. Speaker, if there's going to be objection to us tabling documents, could they at least say it loud enough so we will know? Because the answer usually requires you to say, is there objection? And they need to voice it out loudly rather than just whisper over there. They're going to sneak away in the dead of the night.
Thank you, Member. It's not really a point of order, but the member did make a point on the first rejection. I call the Honourable Member Jackie Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Member Andrew Williams. Order. The point of order on the floor. It's to be heard in silence. Andrew Williams.
Speaker, I seek leave of the House to table a statement of intent from the Auckland Waterfront Development Agency as an example of an official document that should be subject to the Local Government Official Information Meetings Act, but is presently not.
Is there any objection to that course of action being taken? There is. I call the Honourable Member Jackie Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this bill is errant nonsense and I do not support
it. Point of order.
Thank you.
Point of order, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Speaker, is someone nodding his head a sufficient indication that he can object? Or does he not have to say so?
No, the member actually did say that he objected.
Well, we can't hear it here.
Well, that may well be a problem with the microphones, but I certainly heard it. So if the technician could check the microphones, please. Thank you. Oh, the member's completed their call. Oh, okay. I call the Honourable Member Andrew Williams.